As we enter into the second week of Advent, I'd like to, if I could, briefly discuss this figure that we heard in Mark's Gospel this past Sunday. Yesterday, if you're watching this on Monday when it airs, John the Baptist, who according to Matthew's Gospel lived in the wilderness or the desert, was clothed in camel's hair, had nothing but a leather belt wrapped around his waist, a sort of shabby figure, it seems, for lack of a better term. Ate locusts and honey, and I argued, if you saw the YouTube Mass, that he was out in the desert because he had to prepare himself so that he could recognize the Christ when he came. That John, I believe, was out in the desert so he could regain this capacity for God, so that he could recognize Jesus Christ when he came, and that was the epitome of his mission, of his vocation on earth, to point out Jesus and say, that's him there. That's the one we were talking about. And what an interesting vocation, because up until the point when Jesus bursts on the scene in his public ministry, nobody knew who he was. I've mentioned this before. He walked on the earth for 30 years, a carpenter from Nazareth, and nobody knew him. Nobody realized that the Messiah was among them. He was, for all purpose, completely anonymous. Just another face in the crowd. And as I said, we heard from Mark's Gospel in our liturgy, on our Mass this Sunday. I'd like to, if I could, quote a little bit now from John's Gospel regarding John the Baptist. He also says, "I am the voice of the one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord," as the prophet Isaiah said. The same as Mark. Now, they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, "Why then are you baptizing if you're neither the Messiah, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize you with water. Among you stands one," and listen to this, "whom you do not know, the one who is coming after me. I am not worthy to untie the thong of his sandal." This took place in Bethany across the Jordan where John was baptizing. The next day he saw Jesus coming towards him and declared, "Here is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." Now John has pointed him out. "This is he of whom I said, after me comes a man who ranks ahead of me because he was before me." Now listen to this. "I myself did not know him, but I came baptizing with water for this reason, that he might be revealed to Israel." So Jesus Christ, the Messiah, God, the Son of the living God, the second person of the Trinity, walked in human flesh on this earth for 30 years, and even the last of the prophets before Christ, the forerunner of Christ, didn't know who he was. So what does that mean for us this Advent season? You're asking, what's the point here finally, Father, right? Well, the anonymity of Jesus to me is very powerful because it forces us to open our hearts to realize that we may encounter him quite literally anywhere we go. And it forces us to open our hearts to a vision of Christ that's beyond the vision that we may have constructed over the years. Of course, a lot of that's right, and a lot of what we believe is true and absolutely, but it forces us to open our hearts to re-encounter him when we do finally arrive on December 25th in a whole new way. Advent, as I mentioned this Sunday, is a time for us to sort of lay ourselves open, to become completely vulnerable, completely exposed, to open our eyes to Christ in the world, to Christ among us, to Christ dwelling in our flesh, so that we may see him everywhere we go. For 30 years, he walked this earth, and he was nothing more than another face in the crowd. How shocking is this? We need to spend some time in the desert of our own hearts, so to speak, opening ourselves back up to this relationship with Jesus Christ, so that we may look to encounter him around every bend, every turn, every corner, and every part of our lives, so that we don't miss him like those people did for the first 30 years of his life. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we can get so caught up on this personally constructed image of Christ how I want him, of Christ how I think he should be, of Christ according to my personal and only my personal vision of Christ, and we miss him in all the ways he comes to us. Advent, if we take the invitation, forces us to open ourselves up, to recognize this unique and peculiar figure in John the Baptist, who is at once the forerunner, the last of the prophets, and this sort of strange desert monk. To recognize the carpenter of Nazareth, who's another face in the crowd, who is simultaneously the Son of God, the Messiah, seeming opposites, as I said this Sunday, and the tension lies the truth. Advent is the opportunity for us to have our eyes opened, to see the world in a whole new way, and therefore to seek Christ everywhere we go. Please remember that for the first 30 years of his life, Jesus Christ was just another face in the crowd. And so for us, as we go out about our daily lives and we go about our daily rhythms and everything we do, remember that Jesus Christ, to you and to me, may just be the next face in the crowd that we encounter. May God bless you always. May you stay safe during these times. And my prayers are with you all as we move towards Christmas. God bless.